How scary is the prospect of big fuel bills?
It's scary. It's scary for everybody to see the announcement on Friday when basically energy has gone up for most of us, Malcolm, from £1,200 last year to 3,600 going forward into the winter. It's scary for everybody, and I really worry for the people who are on low incomes or who haven't got any savings behind them, how they're going to pay for it. I mean, I think that the government has been, I can't think of the real word for it, but very poor in not having a plan in place to come out immediately after the price cap increase was announced on Friday. I think that Sunak and Truss and Johnson should have got together over the last 2 months or so when they knew this was coming along to actually have at least have got some plan in place, because it is causing what you were talking about earlier. 25% of people are planning not to put their central heating on. I mean, that is going back to the 50s, where I remember growing up in Yorkshire, where frequently during the winter we had to scrape ice off the inside of bedrooms to...
You must have been advanced in Yorkshire. I was doing that in the 70s in Belfast, so you must have been very ahead of your time there. Listen, let me ask you this. You've done something that I would be very interested in, Eric. You've had solar panels installed. Now, I think about this and I think there's a part of our roof that the sun shines on all the time.
Do it.
And I think, oh, how much would this cost and would it be worthwhile? I mean, what's your experience of solar panels?
My experience of solar panels has been tremendous. I started on this route about 20 years ago, but we moved into a new house in 2010, and I put in solar panels, an air source heat pump. Wow. I improved the insulation in my house, which is 100 years old, and it has made a huge difference.
Tell me about your air source heat pump specifically.
I was fortunate in the fact that I could take advantage of the 25-year solar panel grant that was around at that time. But basically, despite that, it cost me a lot of money. Then in 2010, all those measures cost £35,000, which, you know, in today's money is probably £50,000. But that's an eye-watering sum for most people. But I got payback within 7 years. So from that point of view, I am sitting pretty.
Well, let's bring in Malcolm here, because energy is his thing, energy policy is his thing. Eric was a bit ahead of his time here, but even the cost that he's talking about, because of the increased bills, you'll get it all back much sooner, won't you?
Yes, I mean, you should bear in mind, as he was saying there, that there were enormous subsidies for solar. So this was very good for the people who got the panels at that time, not so good for other electricity consumers who were supporting it. And the solar industry got its PR wrong. It started saying we're the cheapest source of energy available. And the government said, OK, well, we'll stop subsidising you. Of course, at that point, you start to realise that it's not quite as simple as that. But all of these things have a part to play. I think heat pumps, it's very good to get that mentioned here. I think they're going to have a big boost. We're seeing an enormous uptake just in the last few weeks of people interested in solar panels.
I'm really glad you mentioned those. And presumably from what you're saying, you are in favour of them. I just want to hear what Eric's experience of an air source heat pump that you've installed in your home has been. Because there's been lots of discussion about this being the future, that people need to invest in these, and it will, you know, it's green and it saves money long term. How much did that specifically cost you, and how have you found it? Has it been efficient, and you know, are you a fan?
Well, yes, I am. Sorry, the figure of £35,000 was the air source heat pump, the extra insulation, and the solar panels. So within that, the heat pump, because we had to have some other work done as well, was about £18,000.
Okay,
the solar panels were about £14,000 at the time, and you know the rest was made up of the other things. But apart from at the time, because the installers weren't really aware to what to do, there was a big problem. Once we got the problem sorted out, it has worked I won't say seamlessly, because nothing works seamlessly, but it's worked really well. But those are the big ticket items. But I'd like to just mention a couple of other things.
Got to do it quickly. Got to do it quickly, Eric.
12 months ago. Right. It's that I have saved yet an extra 10% from my electricity by putting in very, very simple, cheap things like putting curtains across the doors, putting blackout linings on all the windows, and making sure that the curtains are closed in the evening as the sun goes down, to retain as much heat within the property as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people could do very, very, very cheaply.
I know, but you know what, Eric? I think a lot of people
on making,
I think a lot of people will
and
not
save 10% of my bill.
He's on a heat pump, I'll tell you. Eric, I think a lot of people won't do this because I think they're mollycoddled. I think they're spoiled. I think they're soft.
I agree.
And as Isabel says, they're used to their lifestyle.
But we're on a war footing. You know, Boris Johnson was writing in a paper yesterday saying this is all because of what Putin is doing in the Ukraine. He's relishing seeing us all suffering as a result of this. And we have to get a war mentality. We have to sort of, do our sort of war thing. And as you say, close those curtains and do what we can.
Eric, absolutely.
Hold that thought.
One point.
Full of hot air. One point quickly.
Yes, we as individuals have got to do, as Isabel was saying, we have got to do our bit. See where the waste is in our house and do something about it. And you'll save hundreds of pounds. I'll stop now, OK?
No, I'm with you, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Thank you
very much
Bye.
indeed. He's the GB News viewer. He's the energy man. He's Eric Twigg. He's got solar panels. He's got a heat pump. He's got...
I don't have any of those, but I'm with them anyway.
Around the house.